Inspiring interviews with today's top landlords. This is the Rental Income Podcast. And now, Dan Lane.
Michael, you had a job where you weren't making much money. You decided to get your real estate license. You figured you could sell some houses and make more money that way. But after a while, you kind of realized that the income was kind of spiky. You might have some good months where you made money, but then you might have a couple of months where you didn't make money at all. How did buying rental properties help you even out your income?
I mean, basically, if I didn't sell anything, I didn't get a commission. And, I was always trying to get business, but it was kind of sporadic. And it wasn't coming in that much. And I noticed that if I bought rentals, that I could increase my monthly income. And so it gave me a little bit of stability knowing that, with reasonable expectation, I could get so much a month, which with each rental I bought.
On the podcast today, we're going to figure out how Michael was able to build a rental portfolio that provides him with stable monthly income, so it really doesn't matter how much he makes at his day job. Joining us on the podcast today from Montgomery, Alabama is Michael Atkins. We'll take a quick break to thank our sponsors. We'll come right back and we'll talk to Michael. It's a lot of work to find a really good rental property, and when you actually find that property, you want to make sure you're working with a lender that can get that loan closed. The lender that I recommend is Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group. She's a nationwide lender, and her specialty is helping investors finance rental properties. She has a ton of loan programs, and she can find something customized to you for your situation. If you want to find out more or you're ready to get started today, just go to ridgelendinggroup.com. That's RIDGE lendinggroup.com, NMLS 42056. Are you thinking about investing in rental properties, but maybe you don't know where to start? My friends at MidSouth HomeBuyers make it simple. For over 23 years, they've been selling fully renovated turnkey rental properties in Memphis and Little Rock. We're talking new roofs, plumbing, electric, kitchens, bathrooms. Everything is brand new and done right. And here's the best part. Every property comes with a well-qualified tenant in place before you close. That means you get cash flow from day one. Plus, MidSouth continues to professionally manage the property for you after the sale, and they back it up with two powerful guarantees. You get a 1-year total maintenance warranty and a lifetime occupancy guarantee. Personally, I've bought 5 properties from them, and I couldn't be happier. If you want to talk to someone that's been through the process, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you're ready to get started, just go to MidSouthHomebuyers.com. That's MidSouthHomebuyers.com. Michael, let's start with your portfolio today, and then we'll kind of take a step back and figure out how you got there. So tell me about your rentals.
I have 50 doors now. I've probably bought 3 or 4 this year. They're mostly single family homes. They probably range from a 2-bedroom, 1 bath in a C neighborhood to a 4-bedroom, 2 bath in a A- neighborhood, if that makes sense.
When you were getting started as a realtor and you knew that your income was going to be kind of spiky, was your goal at that point to have the rentals pay all your living expenses so that you weren't relying on that commission income?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was kind of the goal there. And to a certain extent, I've always been very frugal, but I knew my job at the Board of Education and the maintenance department wasn't my life goal there. It was just kind of a job I fell into. And, I didn't like the idea of, to a certain extent, like the commission being based to connected to the sale, because there's always the pressure to make the sale. But I would prefer to be like an unbiased advisor where I didn't really care whether you bought the house or not. And having the rental income coming in every month, I could kind of know that, my house payment's covered or my car payment or whatever my bills are covered. And I don't, whatever I made from real estate sales was just extra. You kind of get the commission to get ahead. And it kind of turned into, early on when I had multiple jobs going on, real estate commission just went to a savings account to buy more rentals. And, I kind of had a threshold for savings there. It was around ten to $15,000. But I could buy those houses and put on the roof and replace the AC unit and paint it, fix the flooring, and get it ready to rent. So I basically was saving up to buy the house, and then I'd save up the money to repair it and I'd rent it out. And then it's like I got a raise every month.
So thinking back to those early days, like what did you really at that point understand the numbers? Like, did you understand that there would be expenses to the properties, or were you thinking, okay, if I make X amount of money in rent every month, all my bills are going to be paid? Like how much did you really understand in those early days?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't some kind of mathematician or super genius over there. I was just looking around like, man, how can I make my money work for me? And that was really the only thing I knew where I could kind of make my little small investment. And I knew I could get. Back then I was saving up to buy the house for, let's say, 15,000, and then I was saving up to renovate the house for another 15,000. And I'm in it for 30,000, but then I was getting 650 a month for this little rental. And it was pretty handy, so I could make repairs myself if I needed to or had to. And yeah, I mean, and these numbers sound silly.
Yeah, they
You don't
do.
sound.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
so were those properties in like really rough neighborhoods?
Yes and no. I mean, I didn't feel uncomfortable in those neighborhoods. I would have been
Okay.
fine living in
Were
them.
you able to finance those houses, or were they all cash purchases?
They're cash purchases for me. Um, it, and again, it was just one of those things where that's what I was comfortable with. And, these houses didn't meet FHA standards.
Right.
It probably wasn't something that I could go to a conventional mortgage broker. I'd probably had to go find a local banker.
Now,
And
how did you
yeah,
save that money? Because, you were obviously very young. I mean, you were just out of high school. You had been working for the school system. I'm imagining you probably weren't making much money. How did you save the money to buy those houses back then?
yeah, it was just always taught to kind of instilled into me to save money.
Okay.
Um, and, you know, I, it seems like I've always had about three jobs. And so, I didn't have any money. And I, I, I was rarely bored, because if I was bored, I was finding something to do.
Right.
And
Okay.
so I always cutting grass, bush hogging for farmers, help buddies cut trees. Basically anything I could do to make a extra dime, that's what I was doing. And
Okay, so that
uh,
makes sense. So you're
yeah.
working hard, you're saving your money, and
Mhm.
then as you have the money, you're putting that into a property, and then that property then is generating rent for you. And because you don't have a mortgage, I imagine they're cash flowing great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And today, are you still buying houses with cash, or do you take out mortgages today?
It really depends on the price. Some of these houses are not the best performers. And so I might sell one of those houses and then 1031 the money into a nicer house. Maybe go sell one of the 2 bedroom, 1 baths and go buy a 3 bedroom, 1 bath. I mean, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. And be pretty close to the same money. And, I'm still saving up my real estate commissions, and I have extra money. I start hunting around for a deal. I
Yeah.
think that's really the thing that motivates me, is when I see one that's kind of undervalued or underappreciated. Uh, that's if I don't have the cash, I'm going to borrow the money.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So would you say that your rentals today, like, have they made you a better realtor that you know that you can always do the right thing for your client? You're not ever trying to get a deal done. Like, has it made you a better agent just not having that pressure that you need a commission check to pay your mortgage this month?
Oh yeah. Well, it's made me a better advisor in so many ways. I mean, there's the thing where, um, I truly don't care if you buy a house or not. I might get annoyed with a client if they've run me around town and we've looked at a dozen houses or two dozen. Really doesn't even bother me. Like, a couple dozen houses and you're not buying anything, and it's really like, hey, uh, I think we need to reevaluate what you're looking for
Right.
here. But it also, from another perspective, is that I've I've looked at these houses from almost a contractor's perspective, where I just run across so many situations where something's broken, or I see a little telltale sign that tells me something else is wrong. And, dealing with property management companies, dealing with other property managers, dealing with other agents. And, this one looks really good on paper, but when we kind of dig into the property, I mean, every once in a while I run across properties where I can't really put my finger on what the problem is, but I know it's a money pit. And, if you buy this thing, you're just going to be constantly eat up with maintenance expenses. And it's just better for us to go and find another house.
Well, let's take a look at one of your deals. So tell me about this property. How did you find it?
The agent it had it listed in Birmingham, which is, 100 miles away. And so nobody in Montgomery is looking into Birmingham MLS. None of the agents are looking into Birmingham MLS for houses in Montgomery. And I happen to be a member of that MLS. And so I have an active search for anything listed in my area in that MLS. It'll send it to me directly. And I feel like it just gives me just a slight little edge over, my peers here. And this property was listed in Birmingham and had been out there for a while. And I was thinking, man, buyers can still see it on Zillow or Realtor.com, but any of the local real estate agents, they're not looking. They're looking on their local MLS for it. And so it just was one of the houses I flagged. I think it took me a little while to get the agent on the phone or get a code to get in the house, and went and checked it out. And like, man, this thing's pretty clean. Roof looks pretty good. Um, AC unit was missing, but that didn't bother me any. And so I made them an offer. Turns out that they had already made plans to replace the AC unit and they'd paid for it. They just were waiting for it to sell before they installed it. And I felt like, I got a pretty good deal just because it was just listed in a different MLS.
Right. So because it's not listed right, they're not getting the showings they should get. Not every agent is aware that property's out there, and that helped you get a better price on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. So what did you end up paying for the property?
I paid $107,000 for it.
And did it need any rehab?
Yeah, there's always things. You come to the house I live in, and I'm sure we could find thousands
Sure.
of dollars worth of repairs.
Yeah.
Today, I try to keep my own house in good shape, but it's just the reality of it. And so I probably spent around $10,000 to fix the little odds and ends, install appliances, and I had the house painted. I can't think of everything
Okay.
off the top of my head, but probably around about 10,000.
All right. So 107 purchase, $10,000 to fix it up. So you're all in at 117. And what is that property rented for?
It's rented for $1,440 a month.
Wow. Okay. And how much is your mortgage on, or do you have a mortgage on that property?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
how much is your mortgage payment?
It's $753 a month.
Okay. And that includes taxes and insurance?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so 1440 rent, 750 for the mortgage. So you've got 687 in cash flow before any expenses. Now, how do you budget for repairs and vacancy and anything else that might come up on the property?
Uh, so I have enough rentals at this point that the monthly cash flow is enough to cover any vacancies or repairs I might have. Um, so I wouldn't say that I necessarily budget for it. Um, but I mean, I think that, I've worked up a little equation of, probably a 3% for vacancy. And usually for the houses, I'll have like a flat. Um, so most investors, they'll budget for CapEx and repairs. And for repairs, I didn't think it was fair to do a percentage um, just for repairs, because the cheaper houses, like that repair budget would be smaller, and the more expensive houses, it might be out of proportion for the bigger, nicer homes. And so a lot of the repairs, whether you're in a $50,000 house or $500,000 house, is going to be about the same. The cost of that hot water tank for the $50,000 house isn't going to be much more than the $500,000 house.
It's
And so, mhm,
it's really interesting that we have a lot of people on the podcast that have bigger portfolios and they don't budget very carefully for repairs. And it seems
mhm,
like people with smaller portfolios really do budget carefully. And I think you have a good point that as you have more rentals and you have more rental income, it's easier to pay for things. It's not a big deal. I mean, if you've got 50 rent checks coming in, if you have to buy a new roof on a property that month, like you have the cash flow to do it. It's not a big expense. So do you think budgeting or setting a percentage aside for repairs is maybe more important when someone's just starting out than it is when they're more established and that they have a bigger portfolio?
I do. Um, but also, it's one of those things that uh, I have talked to some investors where, uh, my advice was to save up a little bit more money, because, repairs are going to happen. You're going to have vacancies,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to be able to have the reserve there. So if you're trying to keep 5 or 10% in a savings account for repairs or capex, and that that doesn't like that takes time to build up. So,
Yep.
3 months into it, your tenant loses a job and vacates or quits paying, or the all of a sudden a tree falls on the house. Any number of things happen. Then, you it's not wise to just leave the house vacant or let it
Right.
do nothing. So you need to have the money to make those repairs, day
Yeah.
one, I think.
That's the
So
most important things. Yeah, like you got to have cash, whether it's cash set aside or cash flow coming in. But it's so important to have cash. I couldn't agree with you more on that.
yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question. How important do you think curb appeal is in your rental properties? Like, do you think that like a property, if it looks good, it's going to attract better tenants?
Yes. So that's one of the things uh you know I've spent months renovating these houses and done, full bathroom remodels, just remodeled the whole house, I'd be very proud of all the work I've done and all the, deferred maintenance, decades of deferred maintenance that I went and handled and fixed on the house. And, I'd go and take pictures to market the property. And I'm like, golly, this thing looks terrible. And, it's kind of deflating because I'm so proud of myself that I've done such good work. And then I go to take a look at the exterior and I'm like, man, this thing is not attractive at all.
Mhm.
And so um, it was one of those things to just go back to basics with kind of marketing in a way and think about literal curb appeal. And so one of the things I've kind of implemented is I'll have the curb and the sidewalk and the concrete, the side of the house. I'll have it all pressure washed, and I think it's a pretty it makes your house stick out, because literally
Yep.
you can have a dingy sidewalk, and once you get to the property line, it changes to this clean, uh, freshly pressure washed sidewalk and curb, and it makes your property kind of stick out. And try to pay a little bit more attention to the exterior and make it a nice house, because that's what catches people's eyes. And it's just one of the kind of things I've noticed is somebody who's not going to take care of your property and likely not going to pay the rent. They don't care. They're happy to take the house in any condition. The person who's likely going to pay the rent and be particular about the property, if the house looks dirty and dingy, they don't even consider it. They don't put in the application. They don't look farther than the front photo. And so, in my mind, is you know the the tenant that doesn't care, they're still not going to care. It's a nice house. They just soon rent it as the bad house. But if your house is dingy, but if your house is clean, the good particular tenant, they at least have a shot. So they'll at least look at it, and they'll put in their application and be in the pool of the other applicants. So I think on average, you're going to do better. It's not really saving money to not pay attention to the shrubs and the lawn and the literal curb appeal. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people forget. So, I mean, basically, if you're going to look at a house, there's a lockbox, or you have an agent with you. Like, there's a 30-second, couple minute delay while you're at the front door, while you're figuring out the lockbox, and you're right there at the door. Is the door clean? Is the door frame nice and freshly painted? Is the porch clean? Just things like that add up, because they're getting their first impression while they're right there at the front door, right when they pull up in the car to look at the house. And I think it just improves your odds of having a good tenant and attracting the tenant that you're looking for.
If anybody is interested in investing in Montgomery, or if you want to reach out to Michael, I've got his contact information on the website. You can find it at rentalincomepodcast.com/episode 546. I'd like to thank Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group for sponsoring today's episode. If you're looking to buy a rental property, whether you're just getting started or you want to add to your portfolio, reach out to Chaley. She's a nationwide lender. She has a ton of different loan programs, and she can find something that works for you in your situation. If you want to find out more, or you want to set up a time to talk to Chaley personally, just go to ridgelendinggroup.com, NMLS 42056. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. Make sure you hit the follow button. I put out a new episode every single Tuesday, and if you're following the show, you'll get notified when the next episode comes out. My name is Dan Lane, and this has been the Rental Income Podcast.